If you think BedFight is just rush and click fast, you're probably the guy losing his bed instantly. BedFight is all about movement, game sense, and knowing what to do before the fight even starts. I'm Nico, and I've played thousands of BedFight games, and so everything in this video comes from real experience. So here's how to actually win your games. The game always starts with bridging, and yeah, I know a lot of Hypixel players hate this, but lower height always gives you an advantage because of low ground advantage. As we all know, when you're on low ground, you can hit your opponent who is above you, so in BedFight, always try to stay lower than your opponent. I usually prefer building 3 to 4 blocks above the base because in my opinion, it's the perfect balance. Now let's move on to some tips on how to play in different situations. Always place a block above your spawn because later it will help you reach the bridge a bit faster and also improve your defense. Let's say you end up in a situation where you are below your opponent. You have an advantage, so you can simply shear their bridge and keep pushing forward. The closer you are to the enemy island, the bigger your advantage becomes since you can rush them, kill them, and still have enough time to break their bed. But what can your opponent do in this situation? They have a few options. The first is to quickly go up and drop onto you. In that case, you should react just as fast, move upward, and give a low ground hit on them. The second option is that they simply drop down to your height or even below you. Also, don't forget to place blocks behind you so you don't get comboed or knocked back, because some people like to bridge and immediately jump onto you like in this clip. Now let's look at a situation where you are on the same height as your opponent. In these situations, I often try to connect our bridges and play using block stops and edits like I do in this clip. But you can also shear your opponent's bridge and come up with other ways to outplay them, for example by using Knockback Displacement, which we will talk about a bit later. What should you do when your opponent is below you? You have a few options. The first is to quickly place a couple of blocks forward, land the first hit on your opponent, and if the situation allows, continue the combo. This is a fairly difficult trick, but it often works even against good players. The second option is to go higher, then quickly drop down, connect the bridges, and play using block stops or edits. Another strategy you can use is to leave your opponent at 1 HP during a top fight. This way, you'll only need one hit to kill them later. After that, you'll have time to reach your opponent's island more quickly, giving you strong pressure. Keep in mind that these are not the only strategies you can use. You can come up with your own ideas to outplay your opponents. Now, let's move on to post-bridge/island gameplay. Let's say you've killed your opponent on the bridge and now you have pressure. Remember the most important rule, you must not die near the bridge without dealing enough damage to your opponent. Otherwise, you will lose all your pressure and your opponent will end up on your island with a lot of HP. There are two best ways to play when you have pressure. The first is to go for the bed and use block placements. By using block placements, you can outplay your opponent, but it's a fairly difficult skill to master, and I will soon make a separate video about it. Still, it is a very effective way to win games once you master this skill. On the bed itself, you can build so-called foot traps. I will now show you the most basic ones. The second option is to go for the bed, spam blocks around it, and try to abuse low ground. This works best on low ping. In my opinion, this is the best way to win games because by spamming blocks around the bed, you create more opportunities to break it later, as it becomes much harder for your opponent to reach you when their base is filled with blocks. What should you do when you're very low HP and you're on your opponent's island? This is where the third option comes in. Go to the back of your opponent's island and try to outplay them using block placement. This is a very good and safe way to maintain pressure because if your opponent kills you while you're at the back of their island, they won't have enough time to get close to your island before you respawn. You can also build a second bridge toward the opponent's island if you're low HP, which lets you buy a bit of time and deal good damage to your opponent using the low ground advantage. If the timing allows it, don't forget to block off your opponent's spawn area like this. It will give you a lot of time to break their bed. I would say this is a very useful trick. But what should you do if you lose a fight on the bridge? If you left your opponent on low HP, you need to push them. Because their health will regenerate, now I'm going to show you different ways to properly push your opponent. Block hitting works really well in this game, so try to use it often, but don't overdo it because block hitting slows down your movement and makes you get knocked back more, so use it in the right situations. Also, to win more top fights, you can box and hit your opponent while using block hit. But what should you do if your opponent starts boxing against you? In that case, you should drop down to their height and play with block stops, as shown in the clip. You can also play it like this. Block-ins are one of the most effective techniques in BedFight. The most important rule is to almost always block in using endstone, because if you block in with wool, it will be much easier for your opponent to defend against it. It's also important to do it quickly if you want to win more games. This simple technique alone can win you a lot of matches. Against experienced players, you can also use fake block-ins. Since many good players will immediately start breaking the endstone, you can catch them off guard with a quick hit and use that opportunity to break the bed. Now, how should you deal with someone block-inning against you? There are two options. First, if you react fast enough, you can immediately start breaking the endstone. This way, your opponent won't have time to break your bed, and you can kill them, but you need to start breaking the endstone almost instantly after it is placed. The second option is to break through the 2 layers of wool and position yourself face to face with them so they can't continue breaking it. However, keep in mind that if your opponent is low HP, you can simply break 1 layer of wool and start hitting them. This is a fairly small section, but it's still an important one. Many players think that if you're left low HP on your own base, you should always void, but that's not true. You should only void when you can do it very quickly and when you're already near the edge of the map. If it takes too much time to void, then it's usually not worth doing. Of course, this can also depend on the map. Let me show you an example. In the first clip, I voided after my opponent left me on low HP. The problem was that I wasn't near the edge of the map, and on this map, the distance between the 2 bases is very short, so my opponent could reach my base quite quickly. As a result, I turned the game into a 50-50 fight. If I lose that fight, my opponent has enough time to break my bed. In situations like this, it's usually better not to void. Instead, go straight to the top bridge and try to give at least 1 hit on your opponent. This gives you a better chance to defend your bed and win the duel. However, there are exceptions. On larger maps where the bed is located behind the spawn and the distance between islands is significant, it can be worth voiding even if it takes a little extra time. But if you are too far from the edge of the map and it will take too long to void, then you should not void. Otherwise, you'll end up in another 50-50 duel. Instead, give a few hits on your opponent, and in the next fight, you will have a higher chance of winning. A lot of players actually hate this tactic, but I still have to include it in this video because it's a very effective way to win more games. For example, in this game against Inesk, if I had just taken a straight duel, he would most likely have won because of the low ground advantage. Instead, I decided to use ghost blocks to get onto his island. Because of that, he was forced to return to his base to defend his bed. Otherwise, if he had ignored me, he would have been left at around 11 to 12 HP while I would have broken the bed and voided, giving me 20 HP advantage afterward. That's a huge advantage for me. By using ghost blocks, I got onto his island and then used block placements to win the fight and break the bed. But remember, don't do this for too long because you can get kicked for flying. Knockback displacement is one of the most effective ways to win duels. By turning your camera 90 degrees and then quickly snapping it back while hitting your opponent, you can change the direction of their knockback. It works better on high ping and is quite difficult to master. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and learned something useful from it. If this video reaches 500 likes, I will release a tutorial on block placement and how to use them properly.